All right. We're going to have to catch up. This is a reload. We just got about 5 minutes into the podcast.
Episode 20 reload.
Yeah, episode 20.5. So we just got about 5 minutes into the podcast and realized we forgot to turn the soundboard on. So that's what happens when you have
You didn't have your monster yet today?
No.
Your Rockstar?
I did, but we're just not on our game today. We're actually changing some of the configuration, trying to always get better, even bring better sound, so we're just switching out some of our equipment. But, yeah, episode 20, we just kind of got into it. If you haven't noticed, we are wearing our Officer Barney End of Watch shirts, and Adam and I just took a quick little photo shoot up on our roof. The shirts turned out awesome. They turned out even better than I was kind of hoping. But we've got the respect, integrity, victory, effort, never give up. Thin blue line here, and Adam's got a medium on. I'll steal your joke the second time.
It's a small.
Yeah. So I have an extra or a large on. Adam has an extra large on. But one of the things that we're really excited to announce is we've actually raised $1,500 so far that's going to be donated to the family of Officer Barney, and we're going to be leaving the shirts live for another week and a half to 2 weeks, and we're really hoping, if we can post again and get the support of the community, maybe hope to double that and really be able to donate a significant amount to the family. And they have an account set up at America First, so we'll post a link or some sort of screenshot of accountability showing that we've kind of come through on our end of things. And like I said, 100% of the proceeds are going to his family. So not only do you get a cool shirt, but you get to help out a really good cause with a very high percentage of that dollar amount going towards the family. So,
Well, I mean, so far we've sold 100, and since your cost on this is actually a little more than 5, you're still giving $15 of every one of these shirts is going directly to Officer Barney's family. So, I mean, even though $1,500 isn't life-changing, it makes a big difference sometimes. And even if it means they can go do something as a family, go on a trip, whatever it is, anything you guys can do, I'm sure it would be greatly appreciated. And I think it's a great cause. And I think that I can't imagine dealing with that kind of, I don't even know what to call it, that kind of a tragedy in my life. I've never dealt with something that hard. But for sure, the police officers that are willing to go put their life on the line every day, I think their families, deserve our support. No matter how we stand on all police, or think that there are some that aren't doing everything the way you would want to do it exactly. Most police officers are out there trying to protect the public, and I know that for sure, everybody I know, when stuff really goes down, they're going to call the police, and the police are going to be the ones that are going to show up and help take care of them when they really need them, and they are willing to do some things that 99% of the public isn't willing to do, and go out there and risk their lives for our safety. So I really appreciate all of the police.
And I mean, whatever we can raise, I know that whatever funds or whatever compensation is available for the families of these fallen heroes, nothing comes close to, being able to replace the income or the earning ability of these families. Or, by no means are these families going to be striking it rich with donations and things like that. So any dollar that you guys have, that could help, we'd really appreciate it. So kind of nice segue. We talked a little bit about it last week, but Adam and I with Riven, we want to continue doing one of these causes or some sort of support in the community every month. And it's been something that we've kind of been thinking about for a long time now, but we're kind of operationally and reach-wise, we're able to do something to where we feel like we can contribute. We have a little bit of a platform to where we can raise some awareness and generate some money. And so I was really excited. I messed up that post the first time I posted it, and I spelled effery. So that's what happens when you're hurrying and rushing out of design, and then 10 people look at it and are like, oh yeah, it looks awesome. And then we almost print it, almost to find out that, there was
almost print it? You didn't just...
Well, we would have printed the films, which would have made it. So we caught it. It's corrected, but that first post got a lot of traction, but I don't think a lot of people actually bought the shirt at that time because they did know there was an error, and then we had a link on the website, again, because we were trying to rush everything so fast. It was pretty much that day
So
we
there's
decided
still
to do it.
time. We'd love to get as much money to the family of Officer Barney as possible. So we'd love to send you some shirts. If they're not shirts you'd wear, give them to somebody that would wear them. But know that the money's going to go directly to Officer Barney's family, and we'd really like to help them as much as possible.
Yep, and the link's fixed. You can buy the shirts, men's and women. And if you don't have the money, but you want to do something, share the post, and maybe somebody else out there can participate. I think it'd be really cool as well. I know a lot of people have been using the hashtag Officer Barney, but I can't wait to see some of the shirts pop up on social media. That's always my favorite thing with all the shirts that I put out for Riven and for Fresco Press, is whenever I see people wearing our work out and about, it's always a good feeling, and it always puts a positive vibe. People use T-shirts to commemorate a lot of specific events and show kind of the causes they represent. So that's one of the fun things, about the business that we do.
That's cool. Well, Mike, what are some things? Last night was the what do you call it? The Iowa caucus, and I'll be honest with you, dude. Sean Whalen was just in here asking me what happened last night, and I personally don't care. I feel like I have become so apathetic towards politics. It's like, regardless of what my feelings are about Obama's politics, I don't really feel like my life or my daily routine is any different now than it was when George Bush was president or when Bill Clinton was president. And so, I personally I used to be into politics. I used to watch political things. My dad tries to get me to watch the debates, and I'm just like, Dad, I don't really care. It's like the stuff they say. This is my opinion. I'm curious what you're going to say.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion is they just say stuff that gets them the nomination, and then they say some different stuff to get the general election, and then there's so many special interest groups, so many big businesses that make sure politicians keep things status quo, that really even some people whose personal beliefs are as different as Bush's and Obama's, my daily routine and what was going on in my life day to day didn't really seem any different. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. This sounds weird, but when I was younger, I was way more into politics. I would say almost borderline obsessed. I was doing the whole Fox News thing, or then whatever other news channel, MSNBC, seeing what they said, and then listening to talk radio and going online and, really dialing into it. And, to be honest, it doesn't really matter to me right now. I like to pay attention to politics. I kind of know what's going on. I feel like I'm generally more aware than most people, but I don't really feel like, unless I'm going to do something personally to affect the outcome, or that I'm going to be willing to enter the political arena myself, I'm going to focus on doing the things that I can control right now. And, for me right now, my focus in life is building my business, raising my family, and kind of like you said, focusing on the things that I can control. And, to me, it doesn't really matter who's president, if it's a Republican or Democrat. There's one shrill person that if they become president, I'll just have to be completely toned out to the White House if that happens. But, I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to raise my family. And despite what happens politically, nationally, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to survive and thrive as a business. And I'm going to find ways to make it work like we've been doing. And, to the point where I would love to one day be able to be in a position in my life where I would like to maybe be more involved in local politics or on a bigger level. You probably don't know this, but I was actually the vice president of our caucus when I was 21 years old.
What exactly does that mean? I don't know what it means.
The caucus is like how you actually vote for your state representatives. Mm-hmm. And so, you represent your caucus and then you cast a vote in their place. And I was all into it, and I was going to be anyway, life happened and I did a terrible job and I didn't even fulfill my obligations. So I kind of realized that unless I'm willing to put in the time and effort, I am going to pay attention. I do know what's going on, but I'm not obsessed about it. I don't really care about these preliminary things. And, I just have the attitude that no matter who wins, I mean, unless it gets to a point where it's infringing on our freedoms or our ability to do work, the way that things actually come down and affect our lives are so minimal that, I just am going to focus on the things that I can control.
Yeah. I love current events. I love knowing about world affairs and what's going on in the world. But as far as different politicians, I mean, I know some very influential people, and I know that even people who don't necessarily agree politically with certain politicians, they know that in order for things to go the way they need them to go, that they need to invest money in politicians. And so I've become real cynical. But I will always vote, and I'll always vote purely out of respect, not purely, but mostly out of respect for the soldiers that have fought and died for our right to be free to vote and have a say somewhat. But it does seem like I've been seeing a lot about how the income equality in this country has gotten so much further and further apart. There's so many more people that are extremely rich and then borderline poverty that I know that these really, really wealthy people, they're going to continue to make sure things go the way that they want them to go because they have the money and the wherewithal to be able to make that happen. And so I don't feel hopeless because I feel totally in control of my life. I feel like I know how to work within the system and I know how to make myself happy, and I don't need to be in the top 1% in order for myself to feel those types of, happiness and joy and contentment. But, politics, that's great. I'll stay informed. I'm going to vote. But I really don't think that anybody, I would say most people thought that when Obama got elected, it was going to be this crazy difference between the last 8 years and the years prior to that. And do you really notice anything different in your life?
I for sure feel like the country as a whole, it's undoubtedly become more socially progressive, which, I don't necessarily blame on Obama. I think that's kind of, or I'm not even necessarily saying that's a bad thing, but it for sure has shifted that way. The big thing that I've noticed, I'm on Obamacare. I'm on the healthcare exchange. I'm also in the healthcare industry. I have my insurance license and I sell insurance on the side, which a lot of people don't know. But I think Obamacare has been a train wreck. From my own personal standpoint, I don't think it's working. I've seen, the exchanges, all these plans that were available 3 years ago. I registered this year, and in Utah, there's basically two. There's Molina and Select Health, and your options are becoming increasingly limited. The plans aren't liking it. This is kind of a side tangent, but at the end of the day, I'm going to work in the system that's available to me, and I do think that there's a couple things, but is my ability to earn an income damaged? No. Is my ability to survive and thrive and have freedom really infringed upon? Not that I've, nothing that I've noticed. I think that what you said earlier about a lot of specialty, huge groups of interest on both sides have, a vested interest in keeping things the status quo. And, I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. But I think there's too many people also who are willing to use that as an excuse of, I can't get ahead in life, or, the rich 1% are keeping everybody else down. Because this is still America. It's still the greatest opportunity and the greatest place to earn an income. And I feel like even modern day 2016, there's never been opportunity for somebody to go out and earn an income or earn money for somebody who's willing to put in the work. And so I think equal parts, Yeah, there are a lot of rich people controlling, kind of puppeteering behind the scenes a lot, but there's an increasing amount of people who are willing to just kind of sit back and be willing to let the government take care of them, and who are willing to kind of put in the minimal effort. And so I think there's a, social responsibility on both sides there.
Yeah, no, I for sure have felt, I've been a business owner and, self-employed essentially since I graduated from college in 1996. And I have never felt like it wasn't something that through hard work and determination I could be as successful financially as I wanted to be. I've never felt like the government was holding me back, or that taxes were making it impossible for me to live the life I wanted to live. And I still don't feel that way. I mean, I feel like anything that I really set my mind to, if I work hard enough at it, I can be successful. And so I don't sweat this stuff. Like, to me, it's interesting, and it's interesting to see the crazy bombastic stuff that people can say, and people freak out about it, and say, oh, this guy shouldn't be president, or that guy shouldn't be president, and this guy's a socialist, and this guy's a complete bigot. And if they were to be elected, I don't even know if we'd really notice that big of a difference. I think it all comes down to perception as far as maybe how we're perceived on the worldwide scale. But I'm so much more locally thinking. Like, I focus so much more on the things that I can do with my family, with the kids that go to school, with my kids, with the sports teams that my kids participate in. And I feel like that's where I can make a difference locally, and sitting there debating, what Bernie Sanders thinks compared to Hillary, what Rubio thinks compared to Trump. I mean, I really don't care, other than I just like to know and not seem like I'm totally ignorant. It really doesn't matter to me. And, Dad, I know that's frustrating to you, because I know you really like it. But, and I'm going to pay attention to it, and I'm sure Dad, you just tell me who to vote for, and I'll vote for them, I promise. But anyway, so, on to some other things, Mike. I actually feel like I think it's important that people understand that, truthfully, happiness comes down to being able to be free to wake up and do what you want to do and pursue something. And you, like you said, you've done so many things in your life to support your family, to support yourself, anywhere from selling insurance to selling cable. And now Fresco Press is your baby. And, what do you think of when you wake up in the morning that makes you feel like has taken Fresco Press to become a successful, profitable business?
A couple things. I mean, I feel like intent matters. You know what I mean? And I feel like when I say that, the intent of our business, and when we're trying to do something for a customer, and whether or not we come through 100% for them or not, I feel like at the end of the day, knowing that I legitimately care to either make things right or care about delivering the highest quality product available, I think that matters a lot. So, that's kind of shown. But more than anything, I hate complacency, and I hate the fact that, I always want to feel like I'm moving upwards in an upwards direction, that the business is growing, that I've got other things that I want to be doing and focusing on. And so every day, it's more like about the night when I go to bed, is, do I feel like I did enough that day to move my life forward in a positive direction? And, I'm sure you feel the same way, but the older I get, I feel like I'm still really young. But I feel like there's this big ticking clock of, I only have X amount of time to get these things that I want to done, and these life goals that I want to accomplish. And so to me, it's more like the end of every day, I do kind of a mental inventory of, what did I accomplish today? What could I have done better? What things, do I need to take care of tomorrow? And so, to me, that's kind of been critical, is to not stay stagnant, And I wish there's a part of me that is never satisfied, and then there's a part of me that has, I know this is kind of self-critical, but regrets that I kind of waited so long to kind of pursue the things that I really wanted to pursue and kind of jump all in, I guess, and be in business for myself, because I've always had that desire. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I just kind of ended up, it's like the frog that heats up in the pot. I just ended up staying where I was at, being comfortable for too long.
Yeah, well, when you come to work, I mean, as a CEO, business owner, do you feel like you spend most of your day putting out fires or being proactive with a plan that you set forth, previously?
Oh, I mean, it's for sure shifted, because, I mean, for the first year, I mean, Fresco's only been in business under 2 years still. And, the first year I felt like everything was like mission critical. If I lost this, if we piss this client off, I'm going to go out of business, or this guy's going to hate me, and, this employee. And so I felt like it was 100% about just kind of putting out fires. And now, honestly, it's really shifted to where we know what we're doing. We know what we're all about. We know, like I said, our intent. We know what we're good at. We are delivering. We have a good team in place right now. And so it's for sure shifted in the last 6 months to where I'm able to kind of rely on my team, know our processes, dial into what we're good at, and I'm able to kind of shift and focus on the stuff that I want to be focusing on, that's the business development and the improvements and things like that.
Yeah. Well, I love the show The Prophet. Have you ever watched that with Marcus Lemonis? Yeah. And, some of the way he just practically goes about taking these businesses, I mean, the whole spectrum of businesses, and he can make them profitable. Over 95% of businesses go out of business within the first year. Mm-hmm. So what do you think has set Fresco Press apart? How have you managed to survive and thrive and become a profitable business in an industry that really is competitive? I mean, in this area, everybody knows somebody who knows somebody who knows how to print shirts. There's 20 people I know with little printing presses down in their basement. And so how have you been able to turn something that isn't an invention? You didn't invent print shops. So how did you turn something that's, a brick and mortar business that isn't a brand new idea? What do you think it is that sets you apart, that kept you in business compared to the other 95% that go out of business?
Well, and just to kind of back up, I've had 2 businesses that went out of business. I mean, that pains me to say that. It's, I would never really admit that even to myself. But yeah, I had 2 businesses that prior, I had a business when I was 23 years old at a video game LAN center that I thought was going to be, honestly, it was kind of ahead of its time, where people could pay and come and play. And, I set it up poorly with some other partners. None of us really had a vested interest, and it kind of fizzled out. I mean, we didn't really lose any money. It was just more of a time thing, but I learned from that, and then I opened a second business, again in the video game industry. I owned a play and trade at the Southtown Mall, and I opened it in the heart of the recession. And so I operated as an owner there, and honestly, people don't realize this, but I worked a long time, at least part-time for myself, without getting paid. So at the same time that I was trying to run and operate a business, I worked full-time as a sales representative for Comcast, or was doing insurance or selling real estate. I've literally, it's taken me 10 years to dial in and focus and learn how to run a business and kind of dial in, what I'm good at, what it takes for business to be successful. And so it wasn't just like, let's start a business. And, I saw an opportunity. I thought it mostly would help Riven, but then I started to realize that this industry was super stale, and it was either these little mom and pop shops like you're thinking, or these massive companies that do hundreds of thousands of pieces, and there wasn't really much in the middle. And so there was a huge gap in the opportunity there. And then the second reason that I think that we've been successful is sales. And my background is in sales. My partner at the time, he was also into sales. And so, and you've been well connected and helped us out as well too. But it's really about that, a business is nothing without sales. And so my ability to network, and this kind of transition into a little bit of a sales thing here for anybody who's in sales, but really sales is just about becoming friends with people and delivering. People like to do business with people that they enjoy. They like to know that you come through for them. And if you, again, it comes back to that intent. If you're coming with this intent to, I'm going to screw you on this one deal. And to be honest, sorry Comcast, but that's one thing that I hated working there was I honestly would sell somebody something and cross my fingers and hope I never heard from that person ever again, which is the complete opposite mentality. So I've done everything from knocking doors as a missionary to retail sales in my own store where I'm doing a micro transaction where I have somebody 5 seconds to sell somebody, make an impression, to $1 million real estate deal, to everything in between. So I think that experience, in the sales.
Well, no, this is the one thing that I was hoping that you would get to is exactly this, because every day I have someone that comes up to me at the gym or they come up to me at lunch and they're like, oh, dude, you guys do this, you guys do that. I really want to be an entrepreneur. Is there something I can come do? And I'm like, yeah, dude, you can come sell. And they're like, well, I was thinking more like, manage or, maybe some guys that, I could manage for you. I'm like, manage? I go, what do you mean manage? I said, dude, if you can't sell, you cannot be an entrepreneur. I promise you, there is no successful entrepreneur that hasn't been someone who was way smarter than us, that was lucky enough to invent an app or something like that, who didn't get success through being able to sell. I mean, even the guys that made their money in technology, like Mark Cuban or like Steve Jobs, those guys were unbelievable salesmen. They were able to paint a picture. They were able to hustle. They weren't afraid to get out and do hard work. And there's so many people that think, oh man, I want to own my own business, but I don't want to go knock doors. I don't want to go telemarket. And so that's what, so Gunner, you're probably never going to watch this, but I'm real proud of my son Gunner because he's heard me say that. And he wants to be rich someday. He sees Todd Peterson driving around in $1.5 million Porsche, and he wants worldly things that I never really cared about, but he wants them. And I said, Gunnar, you're never going to have the kind of money to have a car like that unless you are willing to do really hard things and sell. And he went out and he got a telemarketing job.
Yep.
And so he's telemarketing. He's leaving school right after school and going, and he's on the phone smiling and dialing every day. In fact, I might have told you his first sale, he thought he was going to have his first sale, and the guy was like, oh yeah, whatever, it sounds great, yeah, and he's going along with it, and Gunner's just selling him, and Gunner's so pumped because he thinks he's going to get his first sale, and he says, all right, great, well, let me just get your email address, and the guy says, okay, it's don't effing call me again at gmail.com. So Gunner just laughed and said, okay, hey, thank you, sir. I'll talk to you later. But, those are the kind of experiences that you have to have as an entrepreneur. You have to learn how to get your butt handed to you, how to be told no dozens and dozens and dozens of times, and just let it be like water off a duck's back. You're on to the next. You're on to the next guy selling them on why Fresco press is better, what you do different.
Yeah, dude. It's 100% what it's all about. And I've shared this before, but when I was a kid, I used to go door to door after the 4th of July and the 24th of July and sell used fireworks to other kids. I had a pet, I would shine rocks, and I'd put them in my clubhouse and go get all the other kids and sell them to them. So, I've always been good at sales. And my first job, besides working for my dad, was a sales job, a telemarketing job. And so, that cannot be stated enough. And what people don't realize is sales are everything, and you're selling all day long. You're selling yourself to other people. You're selling yourself to your boss. You're selling yourself on why you deserve a promotion. You're selling yourself to your spouse on why they should this or that. You're selling to your spouse on why you should go eat dinner. Your kids are selling to you all day long. And people don't realize that the biggest mistake they can make if they want to be more successful is be more willing to sell. And there's a really great book. It's not necessarily a sales book, but it has a great chapter in it it's called The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster by Darren Hardy. And he talks about all the things and all the lies and all the excuses that people tell themselves every day of why they shouldn't be selling. You know, kind of what you're saying. Yeah, anybody wants to sit back and process this, or they want to do that, and it's because they don't want the rejection. You know, they don't want to put themselves out there. They don't want to feel that uncomfortability. They don't want to feel the awkwardness of the sting of a sale, or the sting of getting rejected. But when you realize, you know, it's kind of like I made a post yesterday about fear. You know what? It's the people that suck at sales are the same people who are fearful of things. You know, they're fearful of going and knocking on someone's door. And what's that person going to tell you? I've had people tell me to F off. I've had people point a gun at me. that was on my mission, but, you know, anything that they can say, to the point where you can say anything to me. And yeah, it might piss me off for a second, but, you know, I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
You know, and so what people don't realize is it's that fear of potentially being rejected, that fear of someone's going to say no to me, or this is going to be an awkward interaction, that keeps them from picking up and dialing the phone, that prevents them. And then people will tell themselves this story or this lie all day long that will prevent them from doing anything that they should be doing other than selling. I even get caught up in it all the time as my own business owner. Instead of, you know, glad handing and reaching out and my contacts, I'm like, oh, I really should go check on this. We'll come up with a million different excuses besides selling. Yeah. You know, anything to avoid a potential uncomfortable situation. And you're right, most people want to sit back, or they'll want to like internet sale, or they'll want to like, hey, you know, let me add value in this other way. But even in my business right now, and I'm sure in your business, it's all about sales. I mean, you're selling yourself to your partners. You're selling yourselves to the people who you do business with. This is turning into a sales seminar,
that's
but
good,
I mean,
though.
it can be understated.
That's good. And I think the thing that people need to understand is you just have to be willing to ask. If you're not willing to ask for something and be willing to provide value, that's the biggest thing. Is there's a lot of people now that are willing to ask, but they don't think about. They say, "Oh, dude, hey man, could you hook me up?" I get that all the time. Hey, could you hook me up with this? Hook me up with that. Hey, hook me up. But what makes people successful are people that say, hey, what can I do to show you I'm worth it? Like a guy came up to me at the gym the other day and he said, I want to be a businessman. And I really look up to this guy. And I said to him, well, you know what you should do? You need to go into Truman and you need to tell him, Truman, I want to be an entrepreneur. I like the way you do things. I want to be a millionaire the way you are. I want you to give me the hardest, most grunt, basic job for minimum wage and let me bust my butt and show you what I can do. And then you tell me when I'm worth getting paid more and when I can learn something else. And if you go with that attitude, you can have a mentor. But if you go in saying, hey, I like you, you're cool, can I just be a part of what you're doing, and think that you're going to somehow get something that's worthwhile, you're not.
Yep.
Because a real successful person wants somebody that's willing to do what they went through. And nobody that's truly successful that wasn't handed success or handed money didn't have to pay the price, didn't have to go through an unbelievable amount of stress, unbelievable amount of rejection. And so you need to decide what it is that you're willing to suffer for. Because, you know, it might not be that you want to be, you want to be an entrepreneur in, software. For sure I don't, because I don't know anything about computers. I don't know anything about software. And so I'm really passionate about things that have to do with human performance and relationships and human interaction. And so that's where I've made my money over my life, is actually, working with people and figuring out ways to provide value to people on a one-on-one basis or through my employees. And so you have to, if you really want to be successful in business, you need to pick something that you genuinely are willing to get up and talk to people about and be willing to have rejection and move on to the next person and not have any hard feelings about it.
Yep, man. And what you said about adding value, I mean, that can't be overstated enough. I mean, that's probably the other thing that I'm way more disproportionately willing to do is add value. And I don't think anybody realizes the amount of like grunt work or free work or spec work or me just being like, hey man, let me make this for you or let me do this for you, and adding value to that person that we want to work with or we want to do business first. I don't think our business would be what it is today if we didn't do that and if we weren't willing to do that. And the amount of people, especially this younger generation, that's willing to add any sort of value first. I mean, look at how many people hit us up on Instagram and Facebook and our personal phones about getting sponsored. Between Adam and I and my Instagrams and his and Facebook, I bet it's at least 50 times a day. It's at least 50 times a day that somebody comes and says, hey man, give me this and I'll do this, and they don't even tell us what they're going to do for us.
No, they just say, hey, hook me up, I want to be a part of your team.
Give me this, hook me up with this. I'm so numb to it now that anybody that's even slightly, I'm like, oh, who's this guy? Like, wearing Riven or posting this or doing whatever. Anybody that is willing to put any sort of value up front or add anything, I'm so much more willing to work with it. And that's a great business technique with anybody. Like you're talking about this guy, if you want to do business with somebody, if you want to go get a promotion at work, if you want to have a better relationship, add value. Do what you can to add value to that person first without expecting what you're immediately going to get out in return. There's so many people now that expect immediate results. I graduated from college. Where's my job? I worked here for 3 months. Where's my promotion? I've worked here for 6 months. I need another raise, Totally without thinking of what is my value add to that person or to that organization. And so I think that's an absolutely great point that, I mean, you've seen live out all the way up to the top levels of business that you see. So,
well, like an example I could use is my wife. Once our kids all went to school, she decided, she's always enjoyed working. She's worked ever since she was 16. She had a job when we were first married, and then she didn't work, when we started having kids, and she didn't work all the way up until our last kid went to school. And she decided she wanted to go back to work, and she started as a receptionist. And she has just always done more than she was told, always done more than was expected of her. And in just a few years, she's gone from a receptionist at basically minimum wage to a director of an entire section of a major multi-billion-dollar company. And it's just because she went out of her way to do everything she was told and then some. If you can always do what's expected, I mean, like my buddy that was my business partner in my mortgage company for 10 years, he used to always tell everybody, under promise and over deliver. And if you can do more than what people expect you to do, it's always going to be impressive. And it's not easy to do. It's not easy to do because sometimes you want to really sell and you want to say, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this. Oh, this is going to change your life. This is going to do all these great things for you. But really, if we make a concerted effort to do more than we say we're going to do or call people or do things exactly when we say we're going to do it, that goes a long way to building trust and making people want to work with you. And so, Mike, I think you're a great example of it. This has been a cool conversation just because I love seeing your success, and I know that you sacrifice a lot. You got some awesome kids at home. You got a great family, but you know that you got to come in here and you got to grind it out every single day and do what it takes so that you can afford to go for a week and ride teacups in Disneyland. I mean, and that's I can understand the motivation to want to go do that. Hey, we're going to switch it up. Switch it up this year.
But yeah, man, thanks, dude. I mean, I really appreciate it. And, I learn a lot from watching you, up close and afar, and, just your relationship and your willingness to just kind of be friends with everybody. And I think you've seen, hopefully, us and me grow as a business. And you know that we're not always perfect, and we haven't always come through on everything. But I think that's the other thing is when you mess up. Yeah, man, I messed up. How can I fix it? And dude, just the nature of the business we're in, there's going to be mess ups. And the best thing to do is just to take your lumps,
take responsibility. I hate when people don't take accountability, say, you know what, you're right. I did say that. I screwed it up.
Yeah, man, we messed up a job 2 weeks ago. Cost me $1,000. You know, I'm just like, yep, take it right there. You know, but that guy, I'm sure he'll be a returning customer because they appreciate that kind of stuff, and we'll make it up later on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, been a cool conversation. Hopefully we didn't bore everybody too much. Shifting outside of business, I think politics, business, hopefully people stayed tuned and stayed engaged. We'll have to see how the numbers hold out for this one. So,
well, hey, you guys, thanks for watching. Please support Officer Barney's family. Support police officers by showing your support for Officer Barney's family. And go up and thank a police officer, thank a soldier, thank a fireman, thank those public servants that are out there making it possible for you and I to pursue the things that we love to do. And not only that, it'll make you feel good to say thanks. And thank you again for all your support. And I'm good.
Thanks, guys. Kind words encouraging us for what we've been doing with this podcast. I mean, hopefully we're eating our own dog food, like we're saying, and we're adding value to somebody. But I know that even the one or two people that come up to me each week and talk about it or mention something, it means a lot. So, you know, we'll keep doing these things, and hopefully you're finding some value in what we're doing. So,
cool.
Thanks, guys.